for this event, and we're going to get started. I would like for the candidates to do an opening statement so you know who they are, why they're running, etc. We're going to start with Claudia.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. For those that don't know me, my name is Claudia Gomes. I am Cape Verdean, born and raised. Before I can tell you a little bit about why I'm here and what I bring to the table, I'd like to establish some background. I moved here when I was 14, went through the Brockton public school system, started ESL student, went to mainstream, honors, honor roll. Went to college, Boston College, got a Bachelor of Science in Psychology and Medical Humanities. While doing that, I also worked here for the city of Brockton. After finished school, I came back and worked for the city full-time. I did just go back to school to finish my master's in clinical mental health and hopefully return to the city, work, and eventually open a private practice. One of the reasons I'm running for school committee and I'm here today is that I did go through the system, so I had the privilege of seeing what the system can offer and where it has opportunity for improving. And I have some ideas that we'll hopefully discuss later on what to develop, improve, and maintain that better helps and provides for our students. I think that's about it. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm sorry. Get a little closer here. Some of you may know me. My name is Matthew Stanton, lifelong Brocktonian, raised up on the north side, Ward 7. Currently living in Ward 3 with my wife, Kara, and the kiddo, Dominic. If you know me, you know Dominic. I ran 2 years ago, came in dead last, but I did something kind of strange. I pretended like I won. I attend every school committee meeting. I'm there with my notebooks. I have reams of notebooks at home where I take notes. When the school committee votes, I pretend that I'm voting. And, I'll mark it down in the notebook. I'll watch the meetings the next day, take more notes. Very engaged. My reason for running 2 years ago was I read the DESE report on the district, and a lot of things that we had struggled with Dominic going through school started to click, and it just really got me involved. And since then, it's just been, train hasn't stopped. A little about my background. I worked for the Boston Globe as a circulation auditor, auditing sales and returns of several regional, local, and international publications over 5 of the New England states. Also ran after school programs. I never saw that as a path that I would have taken, but had the opportunity and absolutely fell in love with it. Seeing the children, the students in those precious hours after school was amazing. Getting to interact with them, getting to know them, getting to know their parents, getting to know their dreams at just that young age. It's amazing. I've spent the last few years just dedicated to Dominic's education. I'm in the drop-off line every morning, the pickup line every afternoon. I see these kids come out of the school with smiles on their faces, and I'm not running for my name on a plaque or a business card or an email address. I'm running so the kids that fill this school and all the schools around Brockton, who are our future, will be able to be up here someday in 10, 15 years, running for this same office, this office, higher offices, because they truly are our future. We're in a middle school right now, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, the high school, even the elementary schools. They are Brockton's future. And what we do presently will determine their future. We need to act with urgency, thought, care, in everything we do regarding our children's education. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Jamie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie Hodges, and I am a candidate for Ward 2 School Committee. I have lived in the city of Brockton my entire life. I went to Whitman Elementary School, this very middle school, West Junior High School, and I graduated from Brockton High School in 2012. In 2016, I got my bachelor's degree in management from Regis College, and in 2020, I received my MBA from LaSalle University. I am not only a Brockton resident, but I also am very active and involved in my community. I sit as the clerk on the Greater Brockton Minority Business Association. I am an alternate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I am a member of the Brockton Democratic City Committee as the secretary and affirmative action coordinator. I also have been a state employee for over 6 years. My goal as your next Ward 2 School Committee member are to support, to advocate, and to provide public transparency. I will support all students, all educators, and all parents. I will advocate for all students at all schools within our community. Advocacy is crucial to the success of students, teachers, administrators, and the effective operation of all schools. And also, as a school committee member, I will provide public transparency by maintaining an open and honest line of communication with parents, students, educators, and the community. I will keep everyone informed on decisions that are made in the best interest for all Brockton students. The mission of the Brockton Public School System is to transform students into lifelong learners. I am a lifelong learner, as evidenced by my background. I am an example of a Brockton resident who embraces lifelong learning from the undergraduate to graduate, even to the PhD level. I decided to run for school committee because I want to represent all students who not only reside in Ward 2, but in the city of Brockton as a whole. I will ensure the parents and students have a voice in making educational administrative decisions. As your next Ward 2 School Committee member, I will be a conduit for the concerns and interests of teachers, parents, and our students. I have a personal interest in preserving and improving the quality of our school system. I believe in quality education for all current and future students in the city of Brockton. When elected, I see my role as working with other school committee members to further Brockton's mission and to encourage an open dialogue with staff, parents, students, and the community. I pledge to return phone calls and respond promptly to emails and other correspondence. My focus will be on all Brockton students. I am committed to continuing educational equity so that all students in Brockton have the same learning opportunities. I respectfully ask for your votes of all Ward 2 residents to vote for me, Jamie E. Hodges, on November 7th as your next Brockton Ward 2 School Committee member. Thank you.
And thank you to the NAACP for hosting this event, and thank you for the community that's out here in the audience today. They took their time to come out here and engage with these candidates and myself as well. My name is Tony Rodriguez. I am currently the Ward 4 School Committee member. I am a long life resident of the city of Brockton, born and raised. I currently live obviously in Ward 4. I grew up on the west side. I came to West Junior High. In the middle school, started off at the Gilmore to the Arnone West Junior High and graduated in '97 in Brockton High. Married, I have 3 children. My oldest just graduated this past May from UMass Lowell with a degree in chemical engineering and currently works for Pfizer. My daughter Kaya, she's at Wentworth in engineering with the focus in architecture. And then I have my young one, Jackson, who's 10, attends the Kennedy School. Being on the school committee, it's been a very challenging one. Main reason why I took the leap into getting on this committee is to make sure that the students are not failed as where the school committee failed me when I was a child going through the Brockton public school systems. And that starts with being a second language learner. And we have great difficulties, as you can see, within the school district. And we just have to ensure that the people that represent us in making these decisions are the right people on this board. So I encourage all the questions and making sure that we have a nice, I can't say a debate for myself because I have no opponent, but we have some qualified, well-qualified candidates that are running it, and it takes a lot to actually run to represent. You know, the school committee, in my opinion, is the most important elected body in this district. Not the mayor's seat and not the council. This is dealing with education, and it deals with students' lives that they can never go back to. So we just have to make sure that we make the right decision in making sure these students get the proper education.
Thank you, Tony. It's not really a debate tonight since we only have 4 candidates up here. But we're going to start with the first question. But be advised, if a candidate can answer a question and the other candidates do not agree with what that person said, feel free to step up and say something, okay? We're going to turn it over to Leona. Leona?
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. So the first question is for all of you. And that question is, the superintendent reported an enrollment decline in your school district resulting in a shortfall of over $18 million. The district later reported a deficit of a little bit over $14 million. 2 questions the voters want answers to. One is, in light of the apparent financial disaster. So the first part is, what would you do differently? And did the school committee fail to do their job? You have 2 minutes to answer that question. Whoever would like to start.
I'll let these other candidates, because I'm currently in that role, so I would like to hear what they have to say and rebut whatever they have to say.
So sorry, Leonora, just so I'm clear, the first question is, what would I do differently
Yes.
in regards to, I'm sorry, could you read the first part one more time?
Sure. So the first part is, like you said, what would you do differently? And the second part is, and did the school committee fail to do their job?
What would I do differently in regards to the deficit or the enrollment, or both? Read the question from the beginning,
Oh, you want the
first
whole
part.
thing?
Yes,
Okay.
please, sorry.
The superintendent reported an enrollment decline in the school district resulting in a shortfall of over $18 million. The district later reported a deficit of a little bit over $14 million. And then, the questions that I mentioned that the voters want answers to. What would you do differently, and did the school committee fail to do their job?
Okay, so I'm going to do them in reverse. I'm going to address the second question first. Did the school committee fail? In my opinion, I do not think the school committee failed. I think that it was up to the auditor to report that information to the school committee. And as I said before, the school committee is a body, they represent all wards in the city. So I'm trying to get my thoughts together, sorry. Did the school committee fail? I'm just going to say no, I don't think the school committee failed, but I think that the lack of communication makes the public think that they did know about the shortfall and the deficit. I feel like what I would have done is I would have communicated it. So as soon as it was a deficit or knew about the deficit, as a Ward 2 counselor, I would communicate that to the ward, there is a deficit, but just as much information as I could get. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay.
I'll start with the second question. I don't think it's fair for us to point finger whether or not someone has failed. When it comes to the school committee, the school itself, the CFO, and so on and so forth, I feel like there's a lot of playing parts. One thing that I would do differently, or that I would suggest, is better communication and better oversight of the financial spending and so on and so forth. Another aspect that's crucial is monthly check-ins to see where we are financially and what's the step moving forward, what is the budget that we have allocated, how much we've expended so far, and what is left to do. Yeah, I can't point fingers, and then the other thing too, we have to wait and see what the audit reveals to better understand how the overspending took place and what we could done better, or what we can do better in the future to avoid such situation.
Okay, thank you. So question number 2, I will turn over to Kavana. Oh, Matt, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So regarding question 1, what would you do differently? Well, as I stated in my opening, I pretended, when I ran 2 years ago, I pretended that I didn't lose. And I went to every school committee meeting. So while I'm not currently a school committee member, I was in those meetings, or most of those meetings. You know, I obviously wasn't in executive session, and I don't know what they get in their packets. So I don't believe, I would like to believe that there was nothing in any of those packets that they get for those meetings that would have led them to find, you know, where the errors were being made or what was being done. I take them at their word for that. I take pretty copious notes at those meetings, and pay close attention. Like I said, I rewatched them the next day. It's a crazy amount of time. And I have the time to do it. I actually enjoy it. So going back, I don't think that I don't think it was a failure of the school committee. I don't. I really don't. In my heart, I don't. I think the communication is probably, and I think everybody, I think, is on that same page. I believe it was, I don't know, I forget which meeting it was in August. And when I got home from the meeting that night, I kind of said to my wife, I said, geez, I said, something was off tonight. I said, there was, you know, the energy was different. So I don't know if that's, and when I rewatched the meeting, I kind of, some people that spoke, not school committee members, were kind of acting a little squirrely, from my view. But I don't think they failed, no.
Okay. Tony?
Thank you. I could say that the school committee did fail. And it's not just this governing body that failed, it's the school committee's prior bodies, the ones that's been there 10, 14, 15, 16 years ago that didn't put these checks and balances into play. So if these checks and balances were implemented years ago, 20 years ago, this body already had the blueprint to follow to make sure that certain procedures are followed. So when you give the superintendent the authority and you approve a budget, it's more of things that I've asked for, monthly reports that weren't provided, certain documents that we just received that's not provided. So it goes to question of who is actually running the district and are they doing it in the best interest of the students. So yes, the school committee did fail. Because we did fail because weren't holding, you got to understand, I would say more of individuals knowing their jobs, knowing their roles as a school committee member, knowing your authority and what authority you have. Because there's individuals on that board, and I'll say it publicly because I've said it in the past, that don't know their role. And they've been there for a very long time, and these are the people that are making the decisions for the students of the city. And it's embarrassing.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Giovanna.
Question number 2. Claudia, Matthew, Jamie, Tony, we are in a critical crisis nationally and locally here in Brockton concerning our public schools. We are looking right now at a school budget that has overspent $18 million, and yes, another $14 million. Brockton citizens want to ask the candidates, what would your strategy be in terms of reducing the present school debt, and would you have a limit on how much to overspend? Should we start with Tony?
Okay. Okay. All right. So we can start at the other end. Yeah. 2 minutes.
In the question one more time, please.
What would your strategy be in terms of reducing the present school debt, and would you have a limit on how much to overspend?
can answer. My strategy would be to go through and find out what are things that we're spending money on that we don't need to spend money on. For example, as I've heard previously, like the buses are parked at the fairgrounds. We have a high school with plenty of parking, we could park the buses right there. So that would be one, debt that I would work with other school committee members to try to resolve. Also, I think there should be no overspending. Like if you're set with a budget, you should be able to work with your other school committee members to stay within that budget and not go over that budget that you set for the year.
Okay. So thinking about this question, one of the things that I have in mind is I am actually excited to see how the audit that's taking place comes out, to see where we are spending money that we could cut down spending. The other thing is also to look at the pattern of how we've been spending money to see, okay, are some of these things really necessary? Where could we allocate more funds that could be more useful, if I may? Another thing that I do agree with Jamie is the use of the parking lot for the buses. We have a lot of parking space, so we could use those spaces and save a great big chunk of money, if I may, that we're spending to pay for parking. Ooh, I just lost my train of thought. I'll come back to it. Thank you.
Did you want
To the second part of the question, if we were to set a limit, yes. Working for the city for the last half a decade, I did create budgets, manage a lot of, millions of dollars, so on and so forth. And one of the things is you only get that amount of money. If I tell you I need 2 million, these are the categories, subcategories, how much I'm gonna spend in each line item, that's how I'm supposed to spend it. If, let's say, I spend more money than I requested for supply and materials, and I need to fund that account, I'll just reallocate funds from other areas, but we should not be overspending for that particular line item without having the funds available.
Okay.
Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
go ahead, please. Please.
I mean, I know dollar signs are thrown out there, 18, 14, 3, but we actually, that's what they see. Until this audit is actually conducted, we will see where the overspending was. I mean, from what I have, I could just say, oh, it was here, here, and there, but that's just a small piece of the pie. Like I stated, if the governing body was receiving its monthly reports as it should have, how it was requested, and it wasn't provided, that just shows you that there's an issue. And you got to remember, once you get on this board, you're only one vote, and you're at the mercy of the chair and the vice chair, and what they put on that agenda, you make your request, and some of this stuff doesn't get forward. You have your subcommittees where you're looking into these POs, and you're asking for certain documents, and they're not provided. Now I know why it wasn't provided. There was a lot of money being moved around that wasn't authorized by this body. And once this audit is conducted, it's going to show that. And I'm confident that it's going to show that it was mismanaged and a great piece of it wasn't put into the students, which is very sad. And when we talk about the transportation, that's why it's not that, the buses were purchased and we just said we're going to go park it at the fairgrounds. We did have a location. The owner of the property at the 12th hour decided not to because of certain languages that the city of Brockton, not the mayor, not any elected officials, it's at the Commonwealth level. So we can't remove any language from a municipal contract. And he decided at the 12th hour not to sign it. And now we have all these buses. No, the high school will not accommodate all of our buses. You got to remember, 170 buses plus 170 staff. It's not conducive. And then that's a school. You have students and staff that are going to be parking there.
Excuse me, Tony, we're at 10 seconds, so Matthew.
So as far as, I believe it was strategy on reducing the current debt, first off, I think we're kind of on the same page here with the audit has to be done first to see where the overspending was done. Those numbers are those numbers. They'll be done, we'll get those when the audit is complete. Reducing that debt, we're gonna have to work, you would probably have to work with, you know, the city council, the state delegation, I mean, even Fed money, anything you can get into this city to help reduce that. If it's 14 million, 14 million. You know, if the city has some free cash, that would have to be worked out, I think, between the school committee and other agencies, councils, representatives, and that will play out. That money obviously was spent. There's really not much we can do about that now.
Thank you.
Okay, do you want the second?
you.
Okay.
Okay. Everyone got an opportunity to speak, right? Okay. Thank you. Okay, so the next question, number 3, Tony, I'm going to pick on you because you are on the school committee now already. So deficit, deficit, deficit. For those of us who do not know the process, let's talk about ledger transparency. We need to know the financial process behind this social and economic failure. Who is responsible for the sign-off for releasing and distributing school monies? That's part 1 of the question. And the latest, does everyone have access to the override function?
So, when I got on the committee, I questioned why the budget was only presented by the CFO. And then when you look at it on the city side, the budget is presented by all department heads. So I feel like at the school level, the department heads for the school district should be providing their overall budget. So once that budget is presented, so we know what we're working with. Having one person provide the overall budget for 20 plus schools and every other department that we have wasn't conducive. So once we approve the budget, you know, obviously it goes to the city council for them to approve that process, and then the CFO for the school district is the one that's actually in charge through his finance department of making those payments. This, even last night, like I said, every day something new is popping up. And, you know, we're being told that there were numerous individuals that had access to Munis. I want to know who these individuals are. I want to know what their job title is. And they would even have that authority to override it. That's very concerning.
Yeah, because I guess I'll just say too, it's very unclear, and you've stated some of that, who has the final say over how money gets spent, and that seems to be the cloudy part of this whole thing. Would you agree?
So yes, it's called, you know, you have your line items. This is where they have department heads, school principals. They have that spending, but it all relies on the city CFO. Actually the school CFO, which has to have oversight from the city side because we do have a city auditor.
Right.
So when we went into that deficit, it brings a lot of question is, if you're doing your job as a city auditor, you should have picked up on this when we spent $5 over the budget. And why was that missed if we're all on the Munis system? Which doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Tony, when this first came out about the $14 million deficit, most people said, you know, people stole the money. Does anyone have access to like a checkbook to write a check for money as dispersed?
I would hope not. I would hope not. But like I said, every day it's something new that pops up because I made some requests yesterday. I've made certain requests. I just want to make sure that, you know, somebody has a credit card. Who's, you know, how many credit cards do we have? Who's making the deposits? We have events at schools where cash is flowing in. For example, at the high school, they're collecting cash at the door. So where's that cash going? What account is it going into? So there's a lot of moving parts, and it all falls under finance. So that's where the checks and balances, where the school committee we're the governing body of the district. We should know every account that we have. We should know every dollar that's coming in, where it's being spent. In 4 years, and Mr. Sullivan, he even, stated, and he's been there, 10 plus years, he hasn't seen it. He's never seen a monthly financial report. None of the members have, and that's where I have an issue with people that's been there for a while that didn't move this initiative forward, so we wouldn't be at the point that we are now.
Okay, thank you. So I have another part to this question around transparency, and this is for Jamie, Claudio, and Matthew to answer. Should we ask for the people currently on the school committee to resign, or ask that the financial process be radically changed for more financial transparency, or both? Jamie, would you like to start?
In my opinion, I do not think that let me rephrase that. So I feel like if the school committee did not have anything to do with why this deficit, I feel like as they say, you're one of one on the school committee. So if one person's gonna go down for what's happened with the deficit, I believe that everyone should, have to stick this together as a team. As Tony stated, this has, been years and years and years in the making. So I feel like we can't blame the current school committee members for something that has happened for years and years and years and just has never been, brought to the light, lack of a better term. As to for the financial process, I feel like the financial process should change. I was hearing Tony say that they do not get those financial reports. So as a member of the school committee, I would want to see those every month to make sure that we are staying on track with the budget that we set as a school committee and that the city council did approve, making sure that we aren't overspending in places that we do not need to overspend. So I would ask for that process to be changed, and also with the current audit going on. So maybe, they ask for the audit. Maybe we can have that audit go every year, making sure that the changes that the public and community is asking for, that the school committee is sticking to those changes that they were asked. Thanks.
I just want to go back 1 second to what you had asked Tony about who can override. I believe, like I said, I take a lot of notes. Last night at 7:55, Troy Clarkson was asked, they were talking about that subject, and I believe he said that the city auditor is the only one that can override the munis, the question you had asked Tony previously. So I believe there is only one person, I believe.
No, I mean, I answered it where prior to this, there was 50, but now
there were like 9 or something.
It's certain individuals within the finance, so it's not just one person, so they limit it to a small number.
But is it now?
City auditor, yeah.
Just one, right?
Yeah, one right now.
All right. So should they resign and more transparency? Like I said, I'm at all the school committee meetings. I don't obviously get the packets, and I don't believe that there was anything in those packets that would have brought them to the 14 million or whatever the number is, whenever the audit comes through. So I wouldn't say resign, no. As for transparency, I've seen more of it since this has happened, even in the agendas. When you look at the agenda on the city page, they're more detailed now. And obviously during the meetings, you see Mr. Clarkson in there with very detailed accounts, and I'm assuming that's what he's handing you in the paperwork that he gives you when he shows up at the meetings. So I think the transparency is slowly getting there. Obviously for the school committee members it is, and it will slowly get out there once everything is kind of up and running and everybo's on the same page, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Claudio?
So I'll stand behind my initial answer. We can't blindly blame the school committee. The thing is, nobody comes into the school committee with the idea, okay, if I was provided with these information and I see, oh, if we do this, we spend this much money, we're gonna be overspending, of course I'm not gonna approve it. If everything that the school committee approved is probably, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, was within reason, based on the information that they received. Again, like you said, if I receive a package and everything looks good, yes, I'm gonna approve it. With that in mind, I would propose restructuring the financial scales, having more checks and balances and more reports being done, let's say monthly, quarterly reports, so on and so forth. When it comes to transparency, same thing, having those budget meetings and having those budget information available to the public. If someone wants to go in and see, and then I had the privilege of being in some of those school committee meetings where they mentioned that there might be information that someone from the financial department didn't catch, but if someone from the public comes and they're looking at the information, they're like, oh, this number seems to be off or something is odd, they can bring it up and then we can further look into it.
Thank you.
Just say one thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to say one thing, follow up with Claudio. I don't believe that we should put blame, but I believe that we should hold members of the school committee accountable. So I don't think that we should blame them, but they should definitely be held accountable.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. What about the laying off of over 100? I actually think the number was closer to like 150 and or so teachers in our Brockton school system. Question to each of you. How will you manage the school budget and priorities better? What shall we do with our project of encouraging and hiring more teachers of color? So that's twofold. One, how would you manage the school budget and priorities better, as opposed to laying teachers off? And what should we do with our project of encouraging and hiring more teachers of color? Matthew, would you like to begin?
Well, how to manage the budget and prioritize better? Top to bottom, it needs to be looked at, and I think that it's currently being looked at, and it will be. And if I'm lucky enough to be your next Ward 3 school committee member, you better believe it will be. I was an auditor for 15 years, millions of dollars a week. And it couldn't be off by, I think a paper was 35 cents when I started working there. Everything had to be accounted for, every penny. So if I ask for a document and I don't get it in, 3 days, I got all the time in the world. I'm going to go down to whoever's office, CFO, whoever, and I'm going to sit in his chair and say, I want the document. I'm not leaving until I get it. That's just me. I operate that way. And how to hire more teachers of color. That's a big problem. It's a big problem everywhere. I know it's a problem in this school. Dominic at home, he's half Guatemalan, and it's one of the first things he said to me the first week of school, that unfortunately with the layoffs, the teachers, the younger teachers, and the teachers of color, there weren't as many of them as there were last year. He told me, certain teachers weren't there, or wasn't sure if they were coming back. It's a slippery slope. It's a problem not only in Brockton, it's in other communities as well. And again, it's attracting now, especially with this stuff going on here. How do we attract quality people when they look at us and say, oh my God, Brockton's a mess? So it has to be a community effort as well.
Matthew, your time, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think as we're talking about this, in light of this, it would be also, do you support the laying off of teachers to be able to manage as part of managing the school budget, and not just kind of what you're saying about attracting the teachers of color, but retaining them? So feel free to include that in your response. We are up for time, but we should hear from the other candidates as well, so if you could make your comments a little bit succinct. Jamie?
Yes, so as to the first question, how would I manage the budget? I would say this audit would be a great forum to basically like take those recommendations and as we move forward, you know, in the school committee, be able to take those adjustments and avoid this from happening in the years to come. So basically taking those recommendations from that auditor and putting them, putting them into a motion as we move forward with, you know, getting a budget for the next school year. In regards to encouraging and hiring teachers of color, I think I would want to work with the diversity and inclusion office that we have, you know, on School Street and figure out ways of attracting those teachers to work here in Brockton. Maybe we could, you know, go out, make an ad, or, you know, become a more attractable city. We are a minority majority city in New England, so it should be everyone would like to work. And do I support the laying off of teachers? I do not. I believe everyone has a living, so you're getting laid off to not have a job, not be able to support your family. So I think that should take into account with the budget. When you're doing the budget, you account for however many teachers that you have at the different schools. So you should be able to not have to lay off any teachers because we're taking away their livelihood to survive.
Thank you. Claudio?
I'll start with the layoff of teachers. I'm always surprised when I hear a certain number of teachers are getting laid off. When I was in school, this happened. After I was done with school, this has continued to happen. And I do not agree with it. One is you get to plan, you get to create a budget. And if you're budgeting for 100 teachers, you should be able to maintain those 100 teachers. And the other thing too, when it comes to budgeting, you should plan to have available funds for, let's call it, of emergency. We need more teachers. Okay, we have this amount set aside that we put under this used to hire 2, 3, 4 teachers. As to the other question, one of my 8 points of change or improvement that I have on my list is to promote a diverse curriculum and cultural competency, and that includes hiring teachers of colors. We can do that by, again, someone mentioned it, meeting with the diverse program we may have, or by providing incentives to our teachers of colors. Just lost my train of thought.
Should we? Thank you.
Yeah,
it was answered sufficiently. Tony?
Managing the budget is, you know, we approve of statements that we are not receiving, and, you know, in certain areas, that's where, you know, managing the budget and making sure that you know, funds to where it's needed, and that's in the classrooms, and that's why, you know, having a budget process where our department heads are coming before the committee to present their budget and making sure that their department is adequately funding. You know, far as, you know, recruiting and retaining teachers of color, I mean, we are the most diverse city in the Commonwealth, and our school district doesn't reflect that. That's more of working with our diversity and inclusion department, and also working with our HBCUs. That should be our number one recruitment tool, is working with these colleges and saying, this is the community that you can be living in. It's the most diverse in the Commonwealth. We have to make sure that we're working with our stakeholders, working with the city officials to making sure that this place is a place to live and making sure that this community, number one, is safe. And as of right now, no elected officials have actually called out the safety of the city.
Thank you.
So I want to throw in, and I'm sorry, Phyllis, I'm going to step out of line for a minute here. I want to ask a question because this is something that's been discussed among different groups. I know on our education committee we've talked a lot about this. So in terms of retention, we know that, and we've seen that teachers, the last in are the first to go. So if we haven't done real well with hiring teachers of color, they're the last in, they're the first to get laid off. So how would you work or build a partnership with the union to ensure that we're able to retain these teachers? Because, you know, the teachers are union, and seniority is everything in a union environment, as you probably know. So what would you do to work with the union to, I don't know whether it's to make some kind of an agreement or whatever it might be, but it seems counterproductive if we're trying to focus on getting teachers in of color and they keep getting laid off because of the seniority issue. So how would you handle that?
So currently, there is a bill at the State House level that State Rep. Rita Mendez is a sponsor that actually addresses this issue, where the district will lay off with seniority of the district, meaning that it starts off with, you know, for example, I'm not saying that it starts off with this, but like, for example, we need this amount of bilingual teachers, but we'll go off the seniority and get the least in those categories to make sure that we retain those educators.
Yeah.
So that bill is actually in the hearing phase. I know Cynthia wrote a letter on her behalf with the school committee. We're writing a letter on our behalf, and I know the mayor supports this hardly. He's doing it through the mayor's office, and then also brought that over to the council side, so we're waiting to see for the council to sign off on that as well.
Okay, great. Did anyone else want to comment, or?
Is that sufficient for where things are in the process?
Okay, all right, great.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. So as you heard and you know that a lot of students have moved out of the district for various reasons, whether it be families can't afford to live in the city anymore or whatever the case may be. But can you give us an example of what you would do to keep parents from wanting to take their kids and young adults out of the school district? And then part two is, you know, what will you do to kind of champion this effort in keeping folks here? Because as you know too, when the kids leave, so does the money. Tony, would you like to?
In order to keep them here, you have to see what it is. For example, the city lacks in vocational technical school. Even this afternoon, I had a long conversation with, can't name the name, but there was a college out there that wants to move this initiative because as of right now, you look through BPS and you look at through the charter schools, there's about 1,200 students in the city that are on a waiting list to get into vocational. So we have to do better to make sure that we offer those programs to keep those kids retained in our school. And then also, that's what's going to attract students from other communities that don't have the programs that the city of Brockton is. We have to be the leaders of education in the Commonwealth. And we have all the tools, but we have to also make sure that we get in the proper resources from our, from the feds, from the state, to make sure that we have these programs. One of my biggest advocates is I created the subcommittee for music, sports, and athletics because I felt and I seen the need within the middle school that there was a decrease, specifically with females. And that was one of the things that even with mentorship, that when I looked at the mentors, there was nothing that addressed anything to the females. So why are we not catering to the females? So my ultimate goal, and it's my vision, and I sort of addressed this to the MIA, and they even offered me a job, but it's that we have to make sure that, every athletic that's offered at school level to be offered to our middle school, because that's where the turn point is. It's not fair for a child to have to wait until they get to high school to want to join a swim team or play tennis or engage in some type of civic club. So we have to make sure that we offer everything possible.
Thank you. Jamie?
I'm going to piggyback what Tony said. I agree. Many parents end up leaving the city of Brockton because they feel like their needs and their concerns that they have are not met. So one plan that I would recommend is to sit with parents, listen to the parents' concerns. What do they want to see change? And develop a plan with other school committee members on how we can get those, if it's something as simple as, like he said, voc tech. Maybe it's something we can develop in our high school, make it, gradually transition into having that in Brockton. So those kids that are going off to Southeastern or going to Norfolk Aggie can stay here in our city and we are able to keep their money and keep their funds. And the second question is a champion effort to keep them here is just, I wrote down, is you have to advertise what the youth want and what the parents want to see. So if the parents if they have a concern, they want to see that you are actively answering their concern and that you care about them and their child. So I think by, working along with other school committee members and keeping that initiative and, showing parents that we care, we're transparent, is what's going to keep them here in Brockton.
Okay, thank you. Matthew?
I believe, echoing what both of them said, the CTE program. That's what I'm hearing when I'm walking and knocking on doors. That is huge. And I believe, I don't know, it's already started. I don't have the notebook with those notes in it right now, but at the meeting they were talking about in the process of a feasibility study to the high school, either rebuild a new high school or redo the one now, just not corrections, but upgrades. That's probably the way they're going to go because a new high school would cost way too much money. When that's done, I think it really need to focus on the CT aspect of it and enlarge that program, offer as much as they can. Because, there's a waiting list. There's a waiting list into something from Brockton kids. There are kids that their first choice wasn't Brockton High. And it should be Brockton High. Offer more programs like that. But again, it's a community effort. We have to hear from the parents, students, what they want to do, and follow programs that will get them here.
Yes. So I'll go back to another one of my points for improvement, which is increased parental and community involvement. So encouraging our parents and supporting them to participate in the school activities that we conduct and participate, speak when we have decision-making process. That will allow us to know what their needs are. Again, this is from personal experience. A lot of people, family leave Brockton because we not provide enough resources. Activities gets busy. I've heard in one of the school committee meetings that some parents bring their kids to the early childhood education is like 9 to 11. And she was like, that's not enough. I need to go to work. So other towns, other cities may provide those services that we're not providing. Maybe private schools will provide those. So the students are leaving, and of course, they're taking the money with them. So some of the specific things that I wrote down that I would like to see changes: childhood education, high quality early childhood education programs, which will have long-lasting impact on children. Enhancing special education services. Again, the services that we provide, I have to say, is not enough. We have a lot of special education students that need more than what we're giving them. Again, parents might take them to a private school that will give them individualized attention. Wow, just lost my train of thought. But again, it goes back to some of the ideas that they just mentioned. We have the opportunity to provide a lot more than what we are providing now, and asking the community, what do you need? What does our children need? One of the things that I gotta mention as well is, for instance, I would like to, when I was I would like to come out of the school with some trade skills. And when I was in school, they did not offer those. Some students will go to a different school, to charter schools, private schools, other towns, to get those trade schools. Some don't want to go to college after high school. And if they were able to go to a high school that provide auto body classes, engineering, so on and so forth, available for all students, they would definitely stay.
Claudia, oh, okay, thank you. Okay.
And so this is my last question to each of you for the evening. School committee members are responsible for policy and oversight of the school district. What initiative would you sponsor to keep teachers and students safe in the Brockton public school system? Jamie, would you like to start? Yes.
I'm sorry, you said what initiative?
Right, to keep teachers and students safe.
So one initiative that I would recommend to keep students and teachers safe is to have more public safety at our schools. I know Brockton High School has a police station inside of our middle schools. I know they have police officers in our elementary schools. So I would want to offer an initiative to teachers be present. So just the sight, even if you see like a police car driving through the parking lot, or if you see an officer greet you at the front door every morning, just giving that little extra, comfort that, that the officers are there and they care about their public safety in the schools.
So is that a program that you would, almost like a teacher watch, that you would implement as part of the Policy and Oversight Committee?
So you wanted me to say initiative that I would want to create?
Right, because what we're saying is that essentially, as a school committee member, you're responsible for oversight of the policy, of the policy and oversight, right? So incorporating something into policy, what would you include as an initiative to keep teachers and students safe?
Yes, as I said, I would include that initiative of, having a police officer present. So having a police officer greet students, I know we have many different police officers, but just having one, greet students at the doors they come in the morning, just having that little, like I said, like that extra cushion of support, knowing that they have someone there. So I would want to integrate that. Also, maybe trainings as well, for the teachers also, because the teachers also should be able to, are responsible for keeping the students safe during the day. So implementing a training that teachers would go through a training, but maybe extra training on how to react in different crises or certain different emergency situations is another initiative I would.
Thank you, Jamie. Claudio?
There are a few things that I had written down. So one of the main things for me, it would be to create a professional educational and safety development program for teachers and students. This could be a class, it could be an event that they do that teachers and students go to learn about, see who to communicate with if something were to happen, and so on and so forth. The second thing is increase and provide security to all schools, all the public schools that we have in Brockton.
Thank you, Claudio. Matthew?
I might go a little further, I'm sorry. I think this happened Thursday. I'm going to read some text from my nephew. Talking about someone's going to shoot at school. I don't know if they're kidding. They say it might happen, but I think we'll be fine. My response, call me if you don't feel safe. Okay. If you don't want to stay, I'll come get you. I think we are secure right now. The principal just announced about the threats. I said, is everything okay? Now I don't know. It's a probability. I said, I'll come get you if you want. Well, it's just the more about it, the more convincing it is. I said, I think it's okay, but don't want you uncomfortable. I will come get you if you want. I'm nervous because I don't know if it's actually going to happen. I'm not near a ground exit. That's a 13-year-old. In his mind, he was not feeling safe because he was on the second floor. That, to me, I mean, I was in tears. 13 years old, and he's thinking, I'm not near a ground exit. More police presence, yes, but one thing I think should be changed was over the summer there was talk about the cell phone and uniform policy, and they had forums on it and everything. The cell phones were allowed, and parents were saying they wanted, and just like this, you know, I wouldn't have been able to receive a text if cell phones had been banned. It's one thing, fine, if he wants to text me if they're feeling nervous or they need to talk to their parents, that's great. But in the handbooks, parents sign every year, we all sign them, put in there that, yeah, you bring a cell phone, but no social media apps. No social media, no Snapchat, no TikTok or whatever it is, all that stuff. Because that's where those things are spreading. And it literally, he was in fear for his life because of social media. So fine, if they want to bring a phone to text their mother, call their parents, if they're having a bad day and they need to talk to them for 30 seconds, a minute, whatever it is, that's fine. But TikTok, Snapchat, all that other stuff, where those threats are originating, see you later. Get rid of them.
I wish we could have more time
Yeah,
to
no.
discuss in the way that you are.
Yeah.
And thank you for what you're doing as far as being a support. And if only our children could have more support and being able to reach out when they feel unsafe. Thank you. Tony?
Safety is number one. When I got on the committee at the time, I believe we only had 5 school police officers, and one of them was out on injury, so there was only 4 in the whole city. Right now, we have, I believe, 17, and 4 more in the process of being hired. I'm a strong advocate, specifically with my background in law enforcement, working for the DOC, and I was a special with the town of Randolph for many years. Financially, if we can put school police officers in every school, we'll do that. That's number one. You look at the safety and security of the schools is our outdoors, looking at our windows. How can you get access to it? You know, we get confidential calls whenever something happens in the district. Summertime, kids are breaking into the school to play basketball. That's sad. But they're in the school causing damage. And it's more of making sure we have the proper training. The school district, we do go through the ALICE training. You can't get enough training. Making sure that our educators, their number one focus is to make sure that the child is learning, but also that safety mechanism has to be a part of that, and making sure that they see signs. I was one of the ones that voted against the hoodie, and there was a specific reason why I voted against the hoodie, because when you look at our criminal activity, 95% of it is conducted with hoodies. I've seen videos where a child got thrown off the staircase at the high school. She was dragged by her hoodie. I've seen some kids run in the classroom. They were wearing their hoodies. So why would we implement those hoodies? And when it comes to cell phones, if there's shooting, I would never wish that. It's not going to happen. That's just my thing. But as a parent, my daughter was at the high school, and I'm working in detail. She's asking me what's going on, and I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm not telling her because I know firsthand information to make her go into a panic attack. But as a parent, the community needs to know that if there's something that happens in a school, you are not going to be allowed onto those grounds. What you're doing is causing more chaos coming to the scene. And I understand you have every right to make sure that your child is safe, but you have to handle that. There's nothing you're going to do as a parent. You want that confident that your child is safe. There's measures in place with the school district. Just make sure your child knows, and those educators do know. I walked them into the high school. I've seen what's needed there. I was late here for a reason because I was negotiating a contract with our, which is greatly needed in every school, not just the high school.
I encourage each of you to maybe have further discourse because I see the faces that it seems like we're in this unfortunate time, and it seems like because there's not anything put in place to assure parents or students. We understand the reasons, but that still does not make one feel safe. So these conversations have to happen outside of the debates and outside of the rooms. Thank you for your input and for making us aware.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so the last question of the night. So, many Brockton parents are wondering about the school buses. That school bus topic, it's all over the place. The buses and the upkeep are swallowing a large part of the school budget, as we know. In some cases, buses are necessary. I guess it's a matter of, do we have enough? Do we need less? How many do we need? But as school committee candidates, do you have any creative but practical options that could help with the reduction of that large expense on the school budget? Claudio, do you want to start?
So, providing transportation for the kids is, of course, important. Not all the parents are able to bring their students to school. Some have to work, some might not be home when the kids are going to school. So it is our obligation, if I may, to provide safe transportation to school. As for the spending, my thing with the transportation aspect is if we need to spend money to get our kids to school, we should. However, if there is any expenses that we are able to cut down, for instance, I will bring this again because I think we should look for other options, but paying for parking spaces. If we're able to cut down on how much we're paying every month, every year for parking, if that we have other places we can park or that we can park for cheaper. Those are options that we can look at. Another option, I'm not 100% sure about this or how much it would cost or cut from our budget, but is incentives for parents to be able to bring their students to school. I know a lot of people have their own buses and they get a stipend from the financial budget they have to bring their students to school, and that could cut down on buses that we buy or maybe park space we have to rent out.
Okay, thank you, Claudio. Matthew? Sure. We're just talking about how the budget is being swallowed up by the buses, and the question is, do you have any creative but practical options that could help in reducing that large expense in the school budget?
I would have to say currently I don't have any creative ways. I think we need to look at the transportation department from top to bottom, get people in there. If it's not being managed right, if there are tweaks we can make, we have to make everything. We have to, basically, we have to rethink everything. We have to question everything. And transportation is one of those things. I know we're in the third year, I believe, of the contract, storing the buses where they are, and they're looking at other options. But if we put the buses all over the city, we're gonna have to pay people to secure them all over the city. They're in one spot right now, so I know it sounds like a lot, I think I don't know if it's 500,000 this year. But the cost it needs to be studied.
Yeah.
And as a committee, come to a consensus on best practices to save money and get the kids to school. I mean,
Yeah.
the buses are helping.
Right.
We were in, first student kind of had a monopoly on it. They could have wanted, but it does need to be looked at.
All right, thank you, Matthew. Jamie?
Yes, I do agree that every student should be provided with safe and reliable transportation to get them to and from school. A creative idea that I thought is maybe that we could see how many bus stops there are, maybe because I know driving around the city in the morning, there's some bus stops that are literally right up the street from another one. So maybe we can use those bus stops, combine them together, and maybe we could reduce the number of buses needed. Because if one bus picks up the street, but there's another bus going right past that same bus stop, they could pick up those kids as well. So that's one idea I thought of, but again, it would have to be looked at through the transportation department to see if that's even feasible or if there's enough room, because there is a lot of students that go to the high school, the middle school, and the elementary school. That's one idea I thought of.
Okay, thank you. Tony?
Transportation, my favorite. I'll say it's my favorite because I was the only one on the committee that actually went to the bus depot to actually see the inner workings of what was going on. So the school committee, prior to when I got on, they were already looking at trying to purchase the buses to save money. I get, through a conference in March with MASC, there's a lot of vendors, and it's basically, teaches you, how to conserve within the district, and transportation was one of them. So first student was like a monopoly. So per bus you were paying, when I got on the committee, it was like $90,000 per bus. That's what per year, you're already paying per bus. One piece of vehicle is $90,000. So purchasing a new bus, depending upon the size, the bigger buses are about like $88,000 to own that. So you're not paying that every year. So that gives you the ability to pay a salary for a bus driver. We didn't anticipate parking the buses at the fairgrounds. So it's something just happened at the 12th hour. But you also got to realize that students are on certain IEPs, and certain students transported a certain way. In FY22, the committee actually had a surplus in transportation that we did allocate. I believe it was $1.6 or $1.7 million back to them. So you can go back and watch these meetings and see who voted, who's rubber stamping things, and who's asking the appropriate question. So when it came to the buses, we had the police officer, police detail. So that's a big expense. We need to cut this. We hired private security, still high. I made the recommendation day one, let's hire our own full-time BPS employees that are sitting there security to watch, instead of subcontracting out, which is cheaper. Guess what? They just did it now. So what a coincidence. So when transportation, when I looked at it, is looking at first student. Why does first student operate with only 2 dispatchers? One for the big buses, one for the small, but BPS has 5. Why do they have 1 supervisor? We have 3. Look at the clerical staff. One of the biggest things on the item is just like, what is a community engagement specialist doing on our for training? That made no sense. But then you just had to see who was working that position. So it was more of overhiring, and then we had a balloon of out-of-district placement. We had over 800 families fall into homelessness. But I can't even say this is accurate, but what was presented to me was that our budget last year was only over 900,000, just shy of $1 million. So if you look at the staff, that was reduced by 4, that was $500,000. I requested for an audit of the transportation, and we do have a meeting coming up where we will be addressing transportation as one of those. So I know, the chair made a, inquiry of what can we do? How could we get out of the fairgrounds and save the district? Because we have to look at every option. We have to look at how we operate. And that's why it's key that you have individuals on this committee that are asking the question and don't say, I'm going with the flow. I'm not going with the flow. I'm trying to be the flow.
Thank you. Yes. I just wanted to make one final comment. One of the things that I'll say about the buses, and thank you for your thoughtful comments about the transportation and buses overall. One of the things that I notice that drives me a little crazy is seeing these big buses driving around the city, 2 or 3 on it. So that's clearly an indication that the whole process will be reviewed, because we hold about 22 students per bus, maybe more.
It depends on the size of the bus.
Right.
I'll give you a perfect example. I was at the re-engagement center, which is new, and 3 kids on a large bus. I'm like, why are we using this? We just purchased some minivans. Why aren't we using the minivans and we're using these large buses? Then I seen some buses, fueling up a certain gas station. I'm like, why are they fueling up here when we have the city side pumps? But guess we have a big now that it's depleting on the city side, so they had to have a second source of fueling the buses. So that it's not just on, it's like the city side now, because now you have a whole transportation. We know we were going to get some bumps. It's new to the district. We know we're going to have some hiccups we have to fix, but we want to make sure that the proper individuals that is running the transportation department. You can't have a mechanic being the number 2 person in charge of the transportation. How did he get into that position? So I'll let you figure that out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all the candidates for answering all our questions. Right now, we're going to entertain closing statements. Tony, you will go last, but Claudia, Matthew, and Jamie, your closing include why we vote for you. We're going to start off with Matthew.
I thank you very much for the opportunity tonight. It's fantastic. I wish there were more people in attendance here. I don't know what the number is watching live, but I appreciate it again. My name is Matthew Stanton. I'm running for Ward 3 School Committee. I have the time, the knowledge, the passion for this position. It's not a stepping stone. You will never, you can quote me on this, it's on tape, you will never see my name running for any other office. Schools, education is just my passion. I want to see these kids succeed so badly, it's unreal. I visited schools through Central America, a few in Europe, and the yearning for learning they have, where they have next to nothing, and to see what we can offer. If we come together as a community, as a committee, all the different organizations in this city, we need to come together and support them. Support these children. They are our future. I'm 48 years old. The kids that are in this building tomorrow morning are Brockton's future. And we need to give them the services they need so when they grow up, they stay here. And they're up here in 15 or 20 years. And they're running this city. Let's see. That's about it, I guess. I have a Facebook page. Elect Matthew Stanton, Ward 3 School Committee. I am having an event next Thursday, October 12th, at the Cape Cod Cafe from 5:30 to 8:30. Stop by, say hello. Let's talk about education. Thank you. Thank you for hosting this.
Thank you guys for coming out today, and thank you those watching us today. My name is Claudio Gomes. I'm running for Ward 2 School Committee. This is my first time running, and one of the main reasons I'm running is that I am a product of the Brockton Public School. I've been through it. I've seen what it did for me, what it could do for our students, and I'm coming here with ideas and improvements and things that we can maintain to better assist our students. And the thing is, I would like to be a bridge between our students and their families to their future. When I think about someone running for school committee or being on the seat for school committee member, I think about at least 2 great qualities. One is being able to understand the community that you're serving, and having the passion and the interest in learning more about the community, their needs, and how you can assist them. And the other thing is understanding the logistic side of things. There are financial things that you need to understand, even if you don't know much or you don't have the skills, but be willing to learn and use the knowledge and information to help our community. I do come with some ideas. I thought we would talk about it today, but some of the things that I would be working on if elected as a school committee member is, one, increase of funding, and we can further dive into that if anybody's interested. Professional development, expand early childhood education, enhancing special education services, strengthening our STEM education, increase parental and community involvement, comprehensive mental health support, which sometimes is underrated but it's crucial for our students. And then lastly, promote a diverse curriculum and cultural competency. I'll leave it at that, and then I do appreciate each one of you guys here today. Hopefully you'll be voting for me. I will also be having an event next week, the 12th, from 6 to 8 on Warden Ave, 474 Warden Ave. You're welcome to join so we can further discuss some of these ideas. And if you have any input, you're welcome to bring those as well. Thank you.
Yes, so as I said before, I want to thank everybody here, in the audience listening, everyone at home who lives in Ward 2 and also in the Brockton community. Once again, my name is Jamie E. Hodges, and I am running for Ward 2 School Committee. As I stated before, I have 3 main goals as elected at the next School Committee, and that is to advocate, to support, and to provide the public transparency. I want to be a member of the committee, not just because I want to. I have that passion, that drive to be the voice for all students in the city of Brockton. I want to be that person who votes for their heart, votes for what they truly believe in, not a person as a rubber stamper, someone that's just going to say yes to every policy. I'm going to be that person that listens to the budget when we receive it, and I have a question, I'm going to speak up and say it. I'm going to also consult the school committee members, the ones that's been there, a while, to, learn from and learn how they do things. Once again, November 7th, I'll be on the ballot for Ward 2 School Committee. You can reach me by email, hodgesforbrockton@gmail.com. I also have a Facebook page, Jamie Hodges for Ward 2 School Committee. On November 1st at Cape Cod Cafe, from 5 to 8:30, I will be hosting your next Ward 2 School Committee. You come down, get some pizza, come down and talk to me, learn more about my passion and my goals as elected as your next Ward 2 School Committee member. And yes, I thank everybody for coming tonight.
Thank you to the NAACP for hosting this event. Hopefully, I can't speak for other members, but, I wish they were here so they could have a say and so people know who is actually advocating for them and what they stand for. One thing I say is that, as I stated, the school committee is the most important elected body in the city of Brockton, not the city council, not the mayor's seat. It's education. I don't like to call school committee members, politicians, because it deals with education. I don't think it should have that, but there's a process in order to get on there so that politics falls into that play. People need to come out and vote. It's very sad that the numbers that are, percentage and people not engaging, and hopefully in light of what's going on in the school district, it brings out a big vote turnout, that making sure that we elect the people that are going to do the job. And we have candidates that are here today that more than qualified. They have the passion, because if they didn't, they wouldn't be sitting here today answering these questions. So hopefully the voters come out and support them, and who makes it, past November, I welcome, and we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do, and it's our job to make sure that the policies that are in place are being followed and implemented, and looking at our policies that are outdated and making sure that we update it and hold whoever the next superintendent is, and making sure that we have a safe district and we have the proper curriculum and moving the district forward. I'm going to, say that, like when it comes to and vote tech, just a conversation today, that's one of my main focuses for we, next school year, that there is a vocational tech school in the city of Brockton, and that we are catering to the 1,200 students that are waiting, that they shouldn't wait, and hopefully that attracts other students from other districts that want to come to the city of Brockton. We do have that title as City of Champs, and right now we have a black eye. We just have to put that pen on there and move it forward and take it off when we're right on top.
Thank you, moderators. Thank you, And let me say this, the ward counselors, if they want to debate, want to have a debate, there's an open